where are you and what do you do? Because no one's given me any info about that.
Okay, so uh, my name is Marcus Miller,
Oh, no, I
and
got that. Yeah,
I own AudioVein Entertainment, and
right.
I talk to people like you.
Okay,
And
and where are you?
I am currently in Topeka, Kansas.
Oh, right, right. Someone not too far from the middle then.
No, I'm
Yeah,
from LA originally, and I
yeah,
lived in Las Vegas for about 20 years, and I left a few months ago, and now I'm in Topeka. So
right. Good. Lots of open space in Kansas, isn't there?
absolutely, no, it's I like it here. I like the vibe, and it's beautiful. Um,
Mm.
it- there's a lot of the Midwest, like Nebraska and Iowa, and not nice to look at. There's nothing to look at all. But here in Kansas, especially where I am, there's some hills and just really pretty nature. It looks really nice.
Yeah,
So I'm happy with it.
yeah. Where we are in Wiltshire, in the middle, I've got Stonehenge slightly to the south, and the other circle, Avebury to the north, and there's a lot of open space here as well.
Awesome.
Mhm.
I can only imagine. Well, I've been overseas one time. Went to Italy for a week, and I didn't know until after the experience, of course, but I did most of it in Rome, and then I did like half a day in Florence.
Right,
And it was during the stay in Florence where it was like, should have came here instead of Rome, you know.
exactly, exactly.
But the actually one of the best parts of the trip was the train ride to and from Rome to Florence, just the Italian countryside, and just love it. That was one of my favorite memories, just that alone. So
Was it a comfortable train though? Because some of them aren't.
yeah, yeah, it was pretty comfortable. I mean, it was like an hour and a half anyway, but it was a decent train. So
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to be on one of these hard-seated, as
no,
if you're in a park. You
no,
know.
and I've ridden on one of those too. Actually, going across the country. My my dad wasn't a fan of planes, even though I flew all the time. He sent me from Arkansas to Chicago to Arizona to get on a shuttle to Vegas instead of just sending me on a plane. So it was like a 3-day trip. Horrible
Well,
train ride, not comfortable whatsoever. And I was awake all the time. So
and that's why you know that some of these places aren't brilliant to look at. Then.
right, yeah, absolutely. Um,
Right.
so Andy, I would like to ask a few things, and
Well,
uh, honestly, I would like to know more about the early days, and not just with the suite, but like even before the suite. What was your musical adventure, your musical journey that led to the suite?
well, I was reminded by my brother that my first proper gig with my mates from school was in a youth centre in the centre of my hometown of Wrexham. And Wrexham is probably more well known now, the football club, because Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds have bought it. And apparently there are more Wrexham shirts in America than there's ever been.
Hmm.
These red shirts. So when you get a couple of guys like that with Hollywood money, it changes the look of the town and everything.
Right.
So I'm from this little town, Wrexham. It's a city now, and we played this gig. We were probably horrible, but it whetted my appetite, and I went through I don't know, maybe 4 bands before I hit a band that was wanted to go places, and we're starting to get out of our region and play in London and Edinburgh and Manchester and everywhere. They were more of I would call a progressive rock band rather than a pop band. But when that folded, I had a little stint with Paul McCartney's brother,
Okay.
Mike McCartney. He had a band called The Scaffold, who were like there was a poet, a comedian, and a musician, and obviously Mike was the musician, and they had like a backing band when they used to go and do gigs. Sometimes we'd just sit back there and let them get on with their other stuff, and sometimes we would have to participate. It was a big learning curve, that, because as guys who kind of come through just being musicians, we know how to do a little bit of acting on stage, even if it was only dressing up as schoolboys, while this portly headmaster would give us a ticking off, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then I was in London, twiddling my thumbs, my brother and I, and we're thinking, what are we going to do? And we tried to form a band, we tried to join a band, and it was all happening very quickly. And somebody just said, you need to go up to this rehearsal room, take your guitar. I went up there and I bumped into the Sweet, who I'd met previously when they were promoting their previous single, which thankfully didn't do anything. And they'd only been around for about a year and a half, and they were definitely the musician side of it. The bass player and the drummer were definitely into, bands like The Who and Led Zeppelin and things like this, and Jeff Beck and the songs that we were releasing were extremely commercial, which probably suited the lead singer Brian a lot more than the rest of us.
Right.
Slowly but surely, we changed our direction, and we got to where we are. It's been a long process, but it's one of these things that without doing one thing, you'll never do the next thing. So there's no point in trying to think that things could have moved quicker or happened differently.
Right.
This is the way it happened.
Yeah, quite the journey, of course.
Yeah, I've just seen a squirrel running past on the wall outside. It's one of your American ones as well, which has driven our little red ones back. Set them back in. It's a funny world, that, but the grey squirrels,
yeah,
are predominant in the UK now.
So even our squirrels traveled over there.
Somehow, I think somebody introduced them, thinking, "Oh, this isn't a bad idea." They'll keep certain parts of the population down and everything. And all they did was they drove the red ones up into Scotland and Wales, and there are none in England now. So it's all very well messing with evolution, but things die out for a reason, don't they? You don't need help from an outside species, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Not pointing any fingers or anything,
No, absolutely, no way. Why would I?
No, it's obvious. We're all horrible,
Well,
so a lot of us.
I can't think of a nice politician right now, but let's not go.
I didn't know that those existed anyway.
Not for a long time. No.
Oh boy. So with a band like Sweet, I feel like even though you hit some peaks, you had some hits, some pretty big hits, something about Sweet was still like I don't want to say underrated, but for whatever reason, it wasn't like up in the upper echelon. But because of that, Sweet influenced so many bands afterward. A band like Def Leppard, for instance. And how have you over the years taken it to be an influence on other bands and artists?
I think underrated. When you first said that, it's a word, and it probably suits the where we were.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it completely explains.
No.
The Def Leppard thing, they ended up on their first album. The engineer who worked on the Sweet material was actually in the studio with them, and he said they haven't really got any gear. All my gear was still in that studio, and they used some of my stuff to record that first album, which was okay by me. You help everybody that you can.
Yeah.
And I think that when you listen and look back at what they were, you can see the influences of bands like Mott the Hoople and Sweet, and probably a little bit of Bowie, but they weren't going for that. They were definitely going for the more rock looking thing, Sweet in its later day rather than its early 70s,
Right.
I think more so some of the American bands like Motley Crue have definitely been influenced by Sweet, with the blonde singer and the kind of drummer who is a really good drummer. He's because you need that in a band. If you've got a weak drummer, you're never going to get anywhere. It's there's no point in saying they ripped us off or they did this. Of course they didn't. They were influenced by, like Sweet were influenced by, and you made it your own in the end. And I had a very nice, my birthday in June, and a very nice message from Gene Simmons. Somebody had passed it on to him saying, you do realize it's 50 years of Ballroom Blitz and it's Andy's birthday, and he's in full makeup, and he said, let's do it now. And he's being filmed, just about to go on stage, because he asked the guy, he said, where are we? He said, Santiago, Chile. Yeah, we're in Santiago, Chile. He said, I'd like to wish you a happy birthday. And Ballroom Blitz, 50 years, man. I don't believe that. He said, anyway, keep it together. We'll see you soon, which was fantastic. It just came out of the blue, so, it's something that you can't explain and that you don't want to really explain. But, and sometimes you don't see people. I've met people I haven't seen for 10 or 12 years, and you fall back in as if it was 10 or 12, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, and that's when you know that acquaintance, friend, whatever you want to call them, we still have a rapport and a respect, and that's all it takes, really. So whether you're up, whether you're down, whether you're first division or somewhere near the top of the second division, it doesn't matter, because if the respect's there, it's all the same. I worry about some of the new acts that come through, because they've never experienced what some of us have experienced, going way back, of having to perform to very few people in a kind of building your audience, because there was no internet, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And now you seem to come in, if somebody goes, oh yeah, I like that, they get you in the studio, they get someone to dress you properly, and all of a sudden you're having all the clicks on Spotify and all that kind of stuff, and somebody is making videos with you, and you look like you've earned $1 million in your first year. Whether you have or not, I don't know. That's none of my business. Right. But at least there's some longevity in what we've done, because it does seem that the audience has gone with us. There is an audience out there in virtually every country if we go and do some dates, and we're just about to go to Australia. We haven't been on tour there for at least 10 years, and all of a sudden we're doing a cruise, one of the Rock the Boat cruises out of Sydney first, and when we step off the boat, we've got a day off to get to Melbourne, and then we start on this 12 days in 20 days, 12 shows, and already about 7 or 8 of them have sold out, if not just about sold out. So
fantastic.
It's going to be a good one,
So you've got new music coming out.
Yeah, Full Circle. It's have you heard it? Have you heard the whole album?
Not yet. It's sitting in my inbox. It's my weekend now. I work a crazy night schedule, so now I actually have some free time and I can catch up on things. And
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I hope you like it and you have the same opinion as quite a few others that I've spoken to. One comment, in fact, a couple of comments, like killers, not fillers, has come to my attention from people, which makes me feel good, because all the band have written. It's not just me writing, 12 songs or so. All the band have contributed. I mean, I am the producer, the executive producer, and the guy who's the other guitarist, keyboard player, is a very talented young man, is my studio engineer and co-producer. He is able to work that magic where you say it would be better if the chorus was double there, or if we could halve that. And editing in digital is just, well, if only we had that instead of razor blades back in the 70s.
Right. So, is there anything on the new album that you're very particularly fond of? Like, is there like a song or a moment in the album that you're just like, that's the moment right there?
Well, I think that Metalville and Sony have picked for the next single. There's been a couple of singles released earlier, and I wasn't sure whether they were going to go on the album, but because they were so well respected on internet, the charts and things like that, they had to go back into the album. But the ones that haven't been heard, there's a song called Circus. It's a very short, snappy 3-minute job. It could have been done by any of these bands. Could have been a Beatles song, I suppose. It's got that John Lennon thing about it. Then there's a song called Destination Hanover. This is the song that's been picked as the lead track when it gets released in September. A little bit story of being on the road and how you're heading towards Hanover in Germany. And the title track, Full Circle, which is the last track on the album. It has to be, because it has some kind of, I don't know, me becoming Lord Byron with a bit of poetry reading at the end, which kind of, you can't put that track anywhere else on the album. It has to be the last thing, because once I say the words full circle, there's no coming back,
Love it. So speaking of newer acts, is there anyone from the last 10, 15 years that's kind of captured your attention at all?
Well, I do still like, because I've heard they're back on the road, Blink. I do like Blink.
Okay.
And of course, I love the Foo Fighters. And I'm actually glad that they've made the decision to still do stuff, because I'm sure that they were right at that moment of thinking maybe that's it.
Right.
Dave Grohl's got some great ideas, and the band, it's not just him, but they've got some, good players there. There are a couple of singers that kind of are a bit hit and miss. There's a new young guy over here called Youngblood,
Okay.
who is, have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's he's probably got a little bit of that. He could have been around in the 70s. Maybe that's why I like him. He's got a bit of attitude, and but it's extremely difficult. But I listen to Ed Sheeran, and I just keep wondering I wonder whether he had AI before anybody else. The way he just keeps tuning out, turning out the tunes. It's amazing. But you got to respect that. It's not my style, and part of the problem that I have is I've been around too long, I think, to keep writing songs that everybody's going to go, wow, that's fantastic. But hence, out of the 11 songs I think it is on the album, I'm involved with half of them.
Yeah.
I'm not involved with everything. So, it's when they're my ideas, they have to be quite good ideas. They're not going to just be ordinary ideas, you know.
Oh, it's all part of the magic, you know.
I hope so. Have you got the air conditioner on, or are you starting to feel the heat?
There's a little bit of heat, but it's okay because I'm shortly after we're done, I'm actually gonna finally get some sleep because
All right.
I
Okay.
work nights and
Right.
I still feel good right now, but I definitely need to get a little rest
Yeah.
and then enjoy my weekend. So
You look like we do when we've had an overnighter in a bus or something, you know. And people expect you to be able to order breakfast.
right. So is there anything left on your bucket list?
No, I was asked this yesterday, and quite frankly, I never really made a kind of bucket list because being in a band, I've been virtually everywhere except Antarctica. And I said to my wife, "You don't fancy a cruise to Antarctica?" And she said, "Well, you know, I like the cold, but I'm just not sure whether going to see a whole load of snow and penguins is a fantastic break." And I said, "Well, who knows? We could go to the Galapagos and then go down to Antarctica." So you never know. Because I'm 15 years in with prostate cancer, I just have to watch what I do, and you know, because I get extremely tired,
Yeah.
you know. But my attitude to bucket lists are, if you're happy and you've got some of your health left, that's a bucket list, you know.
It's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Uh,
and you've got a good woman to look after you.
I do now.
Good.
And now that I'm in Kansas, yes, I do.
That's important.
It took a
I
while.
mean, you can't miss LA. I think Vegas would have been fun, mind you.
Vegas, it's always going to be home, but I just was done with it. You know, like I kind of felt like I had done everything I wanted to do and met everyone I needed to meet, and then everything got really expensive real quick on top of that. And just in the 20 years I was there, the population went from 1 million to 3 million. That's a lot of people, you know,
Yes.
in a short period of time.
It's not
And
that big a plot either, is it?
no, and it's running out of room pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
At least what would be like traditional Vegas, you know, I mean, there's still all the desert that's out there, but you know, I mean, it all kind of looks the same too. And
Yeah. I love that bit to the north. I think it is that called the Land of Fire or something, or the
yeah. The Valley of Fire.
Valley of
Yeah,
Fire. That's it.
yeah, it's really pretty up there.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you head back towards LA, you've got Joshua Tree and things like that. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Well, the thing
and
about living in Vegas is, uh, especially for a long period of time, like you miss green, you miss trees and grass and water, and there's none of that there. And any grass that is there it's becoming a legal thing. Like you can't even have grass anymore. They will tell you have to remove this, and you have to get like the desert landscape. So it's like, okay,
yeah,
well,
at least you're not under that rule anymore.
not anymore. So this leads me to, if I came to where you are,
Yeah.
and you already mentioned one thing earlier, where would you recommend for me to go?
What, in my area where I live?
Yeah, that like just the whole general region. You know, you don't have to like the whole country or anything, but just that area, like history, food, culture. What would I need to experience?
That's a difficult one because each place has its own. Not too far from us is where the origins of cheese, the Cheddar Gorge, cheddar cheese.
I
That is
love that.
that is an amazing place to drive through, and of course, that's why cheddar is called cheddar, you know, because of something like that. I would also say I'm a fisherman. I'm a fly fisherman.
Okay.
And you've got huge rivers and lakes. We have small rivers over here. And there's a particular river that's the home of the trout, the brown trout.
Okay.
And it runs from not far from where we are now, up into from Hampshire into Wiltshire, but it goes all the way down to the sea. And it's a river called the Test, and it's very, very people, royalty, anybody with money has bought houses and land on the Test, because I go and spend something like 200 quid to have a day on my own on this 1 mile stretch of river, and just get there, settle in, cast the line. For me, that is it. It's nirvana, you know.
And everyone needs their own nirvana. They do.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a fan of the ocean, and I can just sit there, and I don't have to go in the water. I don't even have to touch water. I can just sit there and just listen to it, and for hours and hours and hours uninterrupted, no problem. And
yeah.
Again, in Vegas, there's not a lot of that to do. So
No, I mean, I guess a lot of it was imported to there, was it? In Vegas?
What's that?
Water.
Yeah, there's not. There's some man-made lakes that are there in one of the neighborhoods, and then there's Lake Mead and Hoover Dam and all that. But
Mead. Yeah, Lake Mead. Yeah, but wasn't that drying out?
It was, yeah. It filled up a little bit in the last year, but even still, it's not enough. I mean, it's been pretty bad, pretty scary, honestly.
Listen, all over the world, they still don't know how to keep water within a lake, because if once the sun goes and this thing called evaporation starts, you know.
Yep, yeah. Especially there. They were hitting 120 degrees this summer, and
wow.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Well, you go and get some sleep, and I'll get on with what I was going to get on with. And it's been lovely talking to you, man.
Absolutely, Andy. I'm thankful that I was able to chat, and
yeah,
thank you for rescheduling. And
yeah,
I'm gonna listen to the new album, and I'm gonna enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah, send a marks out of 10 back through. Was it Nathan who you got? Yeah. Tell him you loved it. Yeah.
Okay. I'll send him a little something.
All right. Cheers, mate.
Appreciate it.